Good morning. This is Pastor Jeff. This is our daily lectionary readings for Wednesday, December 21st, 2022, as we continue to look back on what happened at church on Sunday. Our psalm reading is 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 1 through 10. Our Old Testament reading is going to be from the book of Genesis, chapter 37, verses 2 through 11. And then our New Testament reading is going to challenge me, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1, verses 1 through 17. Let us take a listen in to our scriptures today. I am going to take a moment and switch my translation out for this, so I will be in the message. 1 Samuel, chapter 2. Hannah prayed, "I'm bursting with God news. I'm walking on air. I'm laughing at my rivals. I'm dancing my salvation. Nothing and no one is holy like God. No rock mountain like our God. Don't dare talk pretentiously. Not a word of boasting ever. For God knows what's going on. He takes the measure of everything that happens. The weapons of the strong are smashed to pieces, while the weak are infused with fresh strength. The well-fed are out begging in the streets for crust, while the hungry are getting second helpings. The barren women have a house full of children, while the mother of many is bereft. God brings death, and God brings life, brings down to the grave and raises up. God brings poverty, and God brings wealth. He lowers, he also lifts up. He puts poor people on their feet again. He rekindled burned out lives with fresh hope, restoring dignity and respect to their lives, a place in the sun. For the very structures of earth are God's. He has laid out his operations on a firm foundation. He protectively cares for his faithful friends, step by step, but leaves the wicked to stumble in the dark. No one makes it in this life by sheer muscle. God's enemies will be blasted out of the sky, crashed in a heap and burned. God will set things right all over the earth. He'll give strength to his king. He'll set his anointed on top of the world. Our Old Testament reading comes from Genesis 37, verses 2 through 11. This is the story of Jacob. The story continues with Joseph, 17 years old at the time, helping out his brothers in herding the flock. These were his half-brothers, actually, the sons of father's wife Bilhah and Zilpah, and Joseph brought his father bad report on them. Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he was the child of his old age, and he made him an elaborate embroidered coat. When his brothers realized that their father loved him more than them, they grew to hate him. They wouldn't even speak to him. Joseph had a dream. When he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said, "Listen to this dream I had. We were all out in this field gathering bundles of wheat. All of a sudden, my bundle stood straight up, and your bundles circled around it and bowed down to me." His brothers said, "So, you're going to rule us? You're going to boss us around?" And they hated him more than ever because of his dreams and the way that he talked. He had another dream and told this one also to his brothers. "I dreamed another dream. The sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me." When he told it to his father and brothers, I apologize for that. His father reprimanded him. "What's with all of this dreaming? And I and your mother and your brothers are supposed to bow down to you?" Now, his brothers were really jealous, but his father brooded over the whole business. Our gospel reading comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verses 1 through 17, as I butcher all the names. The family tree of Jesus Christ, David's son, Abraham's son. Abraham had Isaac. Isaac had Jacob. Jacob had Judah and his brothers. Judah had Perez and Zerah. The mother was Tamar. Perez had Hezron. Hezron had Aram. Aram had Amminadab. Amminadab had Nahshon. Nahshon had Salmon. Salmon had Boaz. His mother was Rahab. Boaz had Obed. Ruth was the mother. Obed and Jesse. Jesse had David, and David became king. David had Solomon. Uriah's wife was the mother. Solomon had Rehoboam. Rehoboam had Abijah. Abijah had Asa. Asa had Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat had Joram. Joram had Uzziah. Uzziah had Jotham. And Jotham had Ahaz. Ahaz had Hezekiah. Hezekiah had Manasseh. Manasseh had Amon. Amon had Josiah. Josiah had Jeroboam and his brothers. And then the people were taken into Babylonian exile. When the Babylonian exile ended, Jeconiah had Shealtiel. Shealtiel had Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel had Abihud. Abihud had Joachim. Joachim had Azor. Azor had Zadok. Zadok had Achim. Achim had Eliud. Eliud had Eleazar. Eleazar had Mathan. Mathan had Jacob. Jacob had Joseph, Mary's husband, the Mary who gave birth to Jesus, the Jesus who was called Christ. There were 14 generations from Abraham to David, another 14 from David to the Babylonian exile, and yet another 14 from the Babylonian exile to Christ. And here ends our readings for the day. Sorry for butchering the names, and sorry for that sneeze. Peace and have a good rest of the day. And I hope to see you at church tonight. The children and youth are leading us. Bye-bye.